Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Listeners, today you are in for a treat. We have one of the most prolific and acclaimed competitors in Australia. Welcome to the show, Professor Bob Frias. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, Kim and Anton. Yeah, very nice to be here.
Welcome, brother.
Just in case anyone doesn't know you, you are the head coach of One Purpose BJJ in Brisbane.
That's
and you have a very nice,
And
very long competition background.
Karate. There you
Awesome,
go.
awesome. So,
Anton,
What's that, brother?
Do you do karate at all?
No, man. No, I just watched The Karate Kid on Netflix and my mate bought me this t-shirt. So there you go. Shout out to Pete. Thanks for the present, buddy. I appreciate that.
And Bob, you've competed a lot, yeah? You're a world's CBJJE medalist from 2015, Brazilian Championship medalist 2015, Oz sub only champion. You won a 77-minute match in 2018. You were on BOA Super 8 in 2018. You've won Pan Pacs, Australian Open, Sydney Open, Melbourne Open many times. So yeah, you've competed against people overseas, some pretty big names. Tell us about some of your competition history.
Well, I started training jiu-jitsu. If you're talking about competition history, I got to go back to always when I started. I started in 1999. So I was 9 years old. It's been, was it 22 years ago? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was always a very active kid, as a lot of, I guess parents thought. It wasn't just, it was a need of, like just outputting energy the right way. And I've tried quite a few different martial arts. I've tried karate, I tried judo, I tried capoeira, I tried a lot of different martial arts. My mom was always a very big fan of martial arts, but she could have never done anything. My dad's very soft, so that's never done anything like that. But my mom always really wanted to train, but women could not train when mom was young. So she would sit outside a karate club, and she would just watch them training.
Wow.
So mom sort of always really like pushed me to, like, if I wanted, they always gave me a lot of the support, and always like trying to find the martial arts that I identified with. And once I tried jiu-jitsu at 9 years old, there was no other kids training. There was only adults, so I would only train with adults. But I really enjoyed the environment. I think the jiu-jitsu environment straight away struck me as very different than the other martial arts that I had tried in the past, and just the way that people would make me feel, how outgoing we are. And it is a different like environment from what traditional martial arts jiu-jitsu. I'm sure you guys, if you have tried something else, you agree with me.
Yeah.
There is this different like sort of vibe to BJJ or jiu-jitsu. I would say BJJ in Brazil, it's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I started competing like the first 2 or 3 months of training. That's when I did my first competition. It was horrible. I didn't know anything. I was not prepared. I had a bad experience, but I still enjoyed it. I think the fact that I was doing something, I was going out there. It was overall, like, even though it was a little bit traumatic start for me, it was okay. I kept going. I would compete once a year since 1999. So at least once or twice a year, I would fight 1999, 2000, 2001. Always the state championship. We didn't have a lot of competitions back then. So in São Paulo, which was at this stage still just behind Rio de Janeiro in terms of like level of jiu-jitsu, it was just behind still. So yeah, we would have only basically 4 main competitions in the year, which was 3 stage of the state championship and the main state championship. So they call São Paulo State Championship Stage 1, São Paulo Stage 2 and 3, and then the main championship. So I would always do at least 1 or 2 of these a year. That's what we had basically. There was not a lot more. And then of course you had the Brazilian Championship and the World Championship that I really only started competing at a higher level when I was about 15, 16 years old. Decided I wanted to start taking more seriously. Sorry, am I saying too much, guys?
No, this is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
How I usually do my introduction about my history of jiu-jitsu. I know it's a lot of things, and there's a lot of little stories in between all of this, between good experiences and bad experiences.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's what we want to hear. Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep shooting, and then I can come back if
Yeah,
needed.
sure.
But by the time I was 14, that's when I was starting to enjoy more the competition, and I wanted to. I think it's not even that I enjoyed competing a lot. I think I really liked the status at school of being the one guy that did jiu-jitsu. I think other kids and other people always looked at me like a little bit differently because I did that martial art and it was something a little bit different. It was something tough, you know. Especially jiu-jitsu in Brazil did not have a great sort of view at the time. It was it still struggles from the history that we have. If you guys know a little bit of the history of jiu-jitsu from Brazil, it used to be a very like sort of a gang, but like a lot of
street
bad
art, like a fighting art. Yeah, to really like
Just-
to show that you were tougher than the other kind of martial arts, like to, you know.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just like people trying to be tougher than each other and trying to look tough, and you know, not very like nice people overall. And it had a very bad. A lot of people would fight on the streets and would just bully others. So it was a bully martial art a lot.
Wow.
A lot of the views. So, but I did like that you know that sort of thing. Okay, I'm going to compete, and you know I want to get better at it. I you know, I was starting to struggle playing with other sports. So like when I would play soccer, I was not very skilled. So I would always end up like sort of wanting to fight. I always had too much energy, I think, and having jiu-jitsu to output that energy in a positive way was always very, very important for my personality. I don't know what it would have, you know, I don't even know how life is without jiu-jitsu, to be honest. You know, it's been doing it for so long that it's just, I've always self-identified as a jiu-jitsu, you know, sort of fighter. That's how it came with me. In 2016, in 2006, I did my first Worlds as juvenile. I had a couple of different coaches coming through my journey. I had some really important people in a good and a bad way. So my first jiu-jitsu coach when I started in 1999, it was the president of the state federation until nowadays in São Paulo. His name is Otávio de Almeida Jr. He's still the president of the federation. He's been for many, many years, and very traditional. In the state of São Paulo. I had a little bad experience then because I was 9, and this brown belt, he was about 180 kilos, 140, whatever. He was a really big guy. He was a brown belt. He mounted me, and he's more than me. So he put his mouth over my nose and mouth like this on the mount.
Richard Latamagi does that to me. There's a guy in our gym who does that to me. So I know how bad that feels, even as a 48-year-old.
But you're a man, right? I was 9.
That's right, man. That sucks.
Wow.
That really sucks.
So it was bad. I felt, Then after that, I didn't want to go back to training. So Otávio called me because, of course, he didn't agree with it, but you know, nevertheless, it happened on his mats, and he was there present at the time, and I didn't see any punishment being done at the time. I started crying. Of course, he wouldn't let me go, so he kept pushing me, and until I saying, "No, you gotta breach off. You gotta breach off." Of course, I was 9 years old. It was a 140 kilos brown belt mounted. Of course, I couldn't escape. I couldn't breach him off. And I started crying, and I got off, and I didn't want to come back to jiu-jitsu. A few months later, we moved in to another suburb in São Paulo as well. And I've always lived in São Paulo my whole life. So besides now, of course, Queenslander for life and love it.
Awesome.
When we moved, there was a different martial arts academy, and they had jiu-jitsu there. And my parents said, "Hey, you know, there's a different academy. Maybe it's a different environment. Let's go and have a look." So they spoke to the coach. Coach was called Paolo Bento. He was the very first, most important person in my life, not only for jiu-jitsu, but for my career as a physical education professor that I am. And just like my mission in life is to teach and just get people moving, really. The importance of movement and the importance of physical activity. I think it's really underestimated in majority of the world population. That's really sad, you know. And it all started with Paolo at the age of 9. I was a very active kid already, but he would always really talk to me, you know. And again, we had only adults training with us, and they really would look after me really, really well, almost like a father on the mat. You know, he was really good to me. And he would always say, "Hey, you know, holidays, go and do some surfing. Oh, it's great for you. Go and swim." oh, if you can't come to jiu-jitsu, go and do physical, keep training, do some bicycle, like keep exploring different things, keep going out and doing all of these other things that, it kept me active, kept me always moving. And I understood from all of that, like different coaches preach different things, right? And that was the one thing he would always preach, not only for me, but for everybody. It's like his mission in life was to get people moving. And it sort of transferred to me somehow. And it became my mission in life as well, once I had to decide what I was going to do as per, university and which way I would go. In Brazil, it's not socially acceptable where I come from for you to not do a university. So I had to choose something. I was like, oh, physical education is the only thing that I identify with. So I want to become a coach. I love jiu-jitsu, but at the time, being a professional athlete was not a big option. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of some of the guys that I used to fight, which are the very best in the world now. And I grew up training and fighting them. I'll get there.
So great. Sorry. This is an amazing journey you're taking us on. Just keep going, man. It's great.
Oh, yeah, I'm lucky, man. I'm lucky I was, born in the, the right place, and I had the right opportunities. And my parents, even though they're not like super physical active and all of that, but they always supported me a lot in doing, like, they would always take me to training, and competitions, and they would always completely support me, in achieving all of my goals. So I'm just lucky, really, I guess, and the opportunities when they came. So yeah, a bit of hard work, a bit of luck, a little bit of everything. I think it worked out for me well. So there's quite a few mosquitoes outside. They're eating me.
Out of Queensland, bro. You should know that by now.
Oh, it's aching. So, where was I?
I think we're up to 2006. Are we up to 2006?
Yeah.
Then Paolo Bento, my coach that I was explaining, was very important for me. He moved from the gym where he was teaching. At the time, I was 14. So I trained with him for 4 years, between 10 and 14. But that was a very important part of my life, right? As I said, not only as a person, but for everything that came with jiu-jitsu wise. I don't like to criticize, but methodology wise, there was a lot of things that now looking back, like teaching wise, it changed a lot. Jiu-jitsu changed completely. So maybe technically I would struggle a lot, especially it was just adults class and things like that. I don't think I was a very technical. I did a lot of strength. I was always doing a lot of effort. Always, I learned, that's how we used to train jiu-jitsu. A lot of effort, but very little technique, not a lot of about that, So when Paulo moved, I had to find elsewhere to train, right? And then I went to another gym for a year where they had a weights gym and they had jiu-jitsu as well. But it was mainly a fancy sort of gym to train weights. In São Paulo, you have a lot of these high standard quality gyms and stuff like that. And they only had jiu-jitsu twice a week. The coach did not love sorry, before I just finish, guys, I do need to mention Paolo Bento was someone very important to me. He passed away last year he had leukemia, and he started his treatment. 2 weeks in, he got COVID in the hospital, and he went away. He was under 50. It was the saddest thing. Yeah, but I'm just happy that I carry all of the things he taught me, and
absolutely, he lives on in your style. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and in me, yeah, absolutely. So I moved to this gym where I was trained. I trained there for a year, but the coach did not love jiu-jitsu. He did not like jiu-jitsu. I had quite a few people in my journey as well as I said, I had great people supporting me and going, hey, this is a great, just teaching me by great role models in life. But I also had a lot of people who didn't like their job. Very often he wouldn't even put a gi on to teach a gi class. He would just sit on the corner and just sort of go around. But I was really self-driven. I think that's where that talent or that passion comes along amongst individuals in the group. The group overall wasn't getting a lot out of that coach, but me as an individual had a lot of that drive. He just didn't love the job when I told him, and I was 14 at the time, when I told him that I wanted to maybe do PE as a uni and things like that. He said, oh, that's garbage, man. Look at my life. I'm so unhappy and this and that. I said, well, maybe it's just you. I don't know. But so after that year, I had an opportunity and that was my very first, I had an opportunity to train with someone else from the Barbosa Association, my professor, Marco Barbosa. yeah, who graded me purple, brown, and black belt. Yeah, I trained with Barbosa. Barbosa, for who doesn't know, it's Murilo Santana coach. It was Cicero Costa coach, graded Cicero Costa for black belts. And you guys know everybody who came under these guys, right? So it's a very good association. So I trained with Nate Diaz for about a year and a half. Nate Diaz is a black belt he wasn't under Barbosa, but he was training with the group of Barbosa at the time.
Wow.
And it was actually a sponsorship opportunity for me to train at a club. So in Brazil, you've got like sports club and things like that. And it was an opportunity for me to train at this club for being a sponsored athlete. So they would pay my competitions. I would train for free, and there was not a lot of very committed athletes. It was like a very fancy club, so a lot of how do you say, just like hobbyists, yeah, training at the club. But for me, it was the best thing could have happened because I came from a very just doing a lot of strength sort of methodology to when I started training with Nate. Nate was my very first, I say, very technical coach. So Nate Diaz started teaching me how to use teaching me how to use my brain and my muscles at the same time.
Wow.
And I started actually learning jiu-jitsu then. I was like, man, I've been doing jiu-jitsu at that stage. I was already doing jiu-jitsu. I think I was 15. I was already training jiu-jitsu for 5 or 6 years. Sorry, just in a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
So,
bring them all in. bring the family in.
I did a little poop. That's good.
We really appreciate you making this time for us too. Yeah, you're such a busy man.
Yeah, Bob has a 4-month-old. I think, is that right, Bob? 4-month-old, baby?
4-week-old.
1 month old. Wow.
Yeah.
If he was not okay today, I would have to cancel. I would just say, hey guys, I have to cancel.
Of course.
He's fine today. He's doing great. He slept well last night. I slept 5 hours, so that's very good.
Yeah, you look amazing, brother. You look amazing.
Thank you. So I started training with Nate, and that was a great experience for me because Nate was very technical coach and all of that. And when I was going to do that 2006 Worlds competition as a juvenile blue belt in Brazil, that was my very first camp at Barbosa. So I would go and train directly with Barbosa, which was the headquarters there, where we had a lot of full-time athletes and a lot of, there was Murilo Santana, Thiago Alves, Cicero Costa training, Leandro Lobo training with us. Man, we had so many talented people. I'm not going to name it, Luis Fernando Panza. We had so many talented people that spread all over. We have so many friends that spread all over the world now teaching and competing and things like that. So that was my very first camp. I did a camp there for a month. And after and when I started training with Barbosa, it wasn't just the ability that those athletes had and the environment that it was in, but it struck me as the very first high level session of any sports in my life I had, right? So it's when I realized, okay, I went from like doing a technical training with these guys for, it was about 6 months or almost a year at the time, with all of these guys at the club that they weren't really strong. So I was able to develop a lot of my skills because I didn't need to use a lot of strength with them because they weren't full-time athletes. I was the only one that training 5-6 days a week, right? And everybody else was just like hobbies training 2 or 3 times a week. So I could basically test all of my skills on them and I could really develop my skills doing it. So I think there's a great side of training with people that are not as good as you as well. And I think that's when my skills start shining, and then I start developing a game plan, all of the things that I like to do and things like that. And they really helped me with the psychology as well, because I didn't have a lot of confidence competing, Kim, it's a super important thing to have when you compete. You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta, have all of those things that as an athlete, it's part of the journey to develop it. I don't think anyone is born with it. I think we develop it, right? And then in 2006, I did that camp. After the camp, I reassessed things and I said, hey, if I want to, I've been here for a year in the club, but if I want to, really go to the next level, I want to train with these guys more often. Which honestly, if I could go back in time, and I know we can't, I probably would have done both. I would have stayed because I gave up on my sponsorship and all of that, which was really good for me, and my mentorship from Nate, because Barbosa had so many people underneath him. Don't get me wrong. When your club grows, it is, you spend the head coach spends less time on individuals and more time looking after the group.
Sure.
Where I was at the club, they had so much time one-on-one with me, and that mentorship was something really important for my life as well. So you see, I'm lucky that I had these people in my life, Paolo Bento, and then Ney, and then Barbosa. So I had amazing coaches, and this is, I think, what makes a massive difference for everybody's journey, right? Having the right person to train with, it's something really important, because you can't go both ways. You see, I had a coach who didn't like what he did, and that was really bad. And I had a bad experience at a different gym, and then went to different places where I was so well looked after, and then eventually, I would learn so much, and yeah, so I didn't do very well in the World's Championship in 2006. I lost to the champion in the first round. I think it was 3 points past my guard. I think his name is Tagus Judson. I think he was competing up to black belt, and he was from Rio de Janeiro, from GF team. But then he sort of stopped training after his black belt or something. But yeah, it was a pretty good athlete. But at the time, look, I think I am. You can ask Buchecha eventually, but at that time, but when we were blue belts, white belts, I fought Buchecha quite a few times, and I think I'm the only person who's beaten him more than once or twice.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah. So we were same weight division at the time. Of course, he was a skinny, tall boy, and I was always the same weight. I haven't changed since I was 14. Still the same structure, same body type. Only put on about 8 to 10 kilos. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah, hasn't
Wow.
changed much. I grew fast, but I stopped growing, and he kept growing. He kept going big and
Yeah.
tall. I fought Buchecha. I used to train with Leandro Leu. Yeah, had fought a lot of guys who at that time who end up becoming really good black belts. So I grew up fighting all of these guys who or training with them who are now very yeah, have a big name in jiu-jitsu. um yeah, so that's when I started really competing hard in 2005, 2006, 2007, and then I came to Australia as an exchange student in 2007, and that changed my whole life. It was I stayed in Gold Coast for 5 months as an exchange student, and it was good and bad. Yeah, it was great because I met Australia. I had a great experience as an exchange student. I was one of the worst exchange students of the history of Robina State High School. So it was like a 5 months holiday for me. I was like, I just didn't. Yeah, I was at a very strict school in Brazil my whole life until year 10. We have different years there, but I'm just gonna explain quickly how it translates. So I was about year 10, and I was really getting to jiu-jitsu and the competitions and all of that. I was like, that's when I was at 15, 16. I really wanted to do more and more jiu-jitsu, and I was very sleepy at my class, and I wasn't, because it was a very strict Italian school that I was, and they were really traditional. They were trying to push me really hard towards yeah, just like study wise, right? And I wanted something a little bit more soft, so I could just keep going with my training as hard as I was very sleepy. I was training twice a day. I would train like at lunch class, and then I would train in the afternoon, 16-year-old. And but quitting school is not an option, for us until we finish. At least, yeah, I have never had that option, so I had to keep going. And some of my teachers, see, my PE teacher from that school, he was a PE teacher, right? And he said to me, hey, if you want to become a PE teacher, it's probably not in the right school. His school here is for you to become a doctor or become a business owner or an engineer, something like that. If you want to become an athlete or a PE teacher, maybe just go elsewhere. Because I was having troubles at school with just like behavior overall and just getting tired. And I always had, I wouldn't say a big mouth, but I would stand for myself if someone said, something that I wouldn't agree with, or something that, And then the last straw was when this teacher came to me once, and I was sort of sleeping in class, and I wasn't just very focused. And she was a history teacher, and I still remember she said to me, oh, why are you so tired? And I said, look, I'm just training a lot. I've got this competition coming up, and I'm really trying to focus on it. So it's my main focus. And she said, look, if that's what you want, you're probably not in the right place. And I was like, oh, I was already pissed off. I just got my bag, and I just said, okay, bye. Walked out of the class. And that was it, For that sort of school, you don't have that sort of behavior. You go out, like you pretty much expelled from the school anyways. So the next day I told mom, mom, I don't want to do this anymore. They're putting too much pressure on me. My mom 100% supported me, say, let's find a school where they're going to understand what you want. They're going to help you to. And from year 10 on, I moved to a different school, and then I was able to train more and focus on all of that. So yeah, basically when I came to Australia, it was just like a break from everything. And it was just a 5 months. I think the only gym that I remember I had seen at the time, it was Fight Club with Daniel Lima. When I was in Gold Coast, and I trained 2 or 3 times with them, but it was about 40 minutes catching the bus, and it was not it was a bit of a hardship. So to go to training, and I still had to, membership was not cheap for me at the time as a student as well. My parents probably wouldn't have afforded it anyway. So it's just like I'm just gonna enjoy my 5 months here, and then I'll start training once I go back home. And then I went back home, and then that's when I think Buchecha started taking off, and all of those guys that I was fighting, Leandro Lobo, were training like very, very equally. And that's when Panza was, as well, like coming up as well. And then I was like so far behind all of these guys. And I was like, oh man, those 5 months off in Australia were tough. And then, then I kept going. I had to, start uni the next year. So basically, I'm very grateful that I did the things the way that I did, even though I probably, you see all of these guys who didn't go to uni, but they did, became pro athletes at that time. It was a leap of faith, right? Like from all of them, really. It was a great, it's a great thing that they did in saying, hey, I'm just going to focus 100% on my sport. I'm doing well here, and eventually this is going to pay me some money. As from where I came from, I didn't have that. That was not even a idea for me. It's like, okay, you got to go to uni, you got to finish, you got to, so I went to do my PE uni, where I think it a lot helped me with my teaching methodology and just understanding a lot of things. I would not have had the same opportunities, or the same understanding that I have as a coach now, without going through what I went through. So I think it's really good, and I'm still, still trying my best to stay at the highest level. Things are a little bit different now, but as I said, guys, during this period, uni period after 2007 and 2008, even though I wasn't training or competing as much because I had uni and all of that, I would still train at least 4 or 5 days a week. I would, that was the very minimum. I couldn't, if I didn't train that much, I would just, be very irritated. And it's always like a medication for me, right? Jiu-jitsu has always been an outlet, and everything very, 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 something very, very important in my life. And if I didn't have that, I just would feel really frustrated and didn't know how to deal with my feelings and my energy levels, and just wouldn't feel like a normal person. I think that's where the understanding of like how important physical activity is for people as well comes to me, and why I try to get people moving so much, because it's what I've always felt, how much has always helped me to deal with all of that. Many years later, kept competing and things like that, but I really only decided to take it more seriously again, like when I was in 2014, when I got my black belt. That was it. That was like, okay, I got my black belt now. I've been up and down trying to, like, between fighting trying to find the highest level as a brown belt again, trying to go for like bigger comps again as purple and brown, but ups and downs with uni and all of that, but always somewhat consistent, not like a high level athlete probably should be taking your lifestyle, but always, ups and downs. I had, during uni time, I had a great opportunity as a just before I got my brown belt. I started teaching jiu-jitsu as between purple to black belt. I would teach jiu-jitsu twice a week with my good friend Thiago Alves, was also a great mentor to me, because that's the gym that I used to work during my uni period, that I worked for 3 years. So before you graduate, of course, you got to do like this internship sort of thing. So I was a weights PT. So I would do just like the PT at the gym for people, general public. It's a little bit different than what people do in Australia, not like just a one-on-one, but I have multiple people on a weights room at the same time, which helped me a lot, I think, develop just communication with students, really. And that's where I started teaching jiu-jitsu as well with Thiago. But Thiago is, guys, for who doesn't know, Thiago's been I think Thiago got like second place in the world, and he's fought so many. Guys probably don't know him.
Is he the MMA fighter, Thiago Alves, like the UFC?
He got in the Ultimate Fighter house. Actually, it's not that Thiago Alves.
It's not that one. Okay, cool.
Thinking, because there was two Thiago Alves in UFC, if not more. But
Yeah.
yeah, he actually went down an MMA path later on, and he got into the Ultimate Fighter house in Brazil, and he did quite a few fights as well. And he was a great mentor to me as well. And yeah, he was also doing, we started this group from zero. So it was very, very good for me to learn, like start understanding what do we do with a brand beginners group? Like, how do we start the group? How do we, structure classes for jiu-jitsu and things like that? So I think all of those experiences, good and bad, because I think still the methodology we were using at the time was quite advanced for what all the beginner group, what I do in my academy now. But I think all of that is great experience, right? Because we do so many mistakes, we get so much better. If you don't do mistakes, you don't get better as a coach, because you see so many wrong things, you know what not to do. Because you see so many good things, you know what to do, right? So having good and bad examples are equally important, I think, for us as a coach and as an athlete, right? In our path. So started training and teaching and keep training and working at the gym was very good experience for me. All of those things combined, and and then eventually when I got my black belt, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna do this, because now it's my, I was 24 at the time. Yeah, I was 24 at the time, and I was like, okay, I want to try and get really good now. I want to get to the highest level again. So that year and then I had a neck injury. Then I had a bulging disc C6, C7 to my left side. That was really bad. And I thought I was never going to be able to train hard again. It was crap. I don't even know how I did it. I was training one day. The next day I woke up. I was working at my mom's business. Just a short story. I won't tell that now. That not very important. But and then I just fell down on the ground. I had a lot of pain, and then I was like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And then I had to figure it out, the pain. And then it was a good 3 to 6 months to be back 100%. But once I got back, and I got back with a lot of physio, a lot of exercising, and basically normal now. Still have the neck every so often, comes back, and then you just got to keep strengthening and rehabbing. I think it's very important part of every athlete or every sports person for their life is how to overcome injuries. We all going to have injuries at many times, and learning that we can overcome them and how to overcome them is very important part of the journey. Just giving up is not be an option for anyone.
Wow.
So I overcame it. In 2015, I did 14 comps in 8 months, I think, in Brazil. And that's when I did, the Brazilian Championship and the World Championship CBJJE, which is like a second grade federation in Brazil, but it's pretty big there. So I fought Leandro Lon in the, I think, semifinals of the Brazilian champ. I had like really good matches, and I fought quite a lot of experience with. So that year I was like, I'm going to put a lot of volume of competition on, so I can grind and I can really grasp it, because you need experience, right? Once you go to the highest level. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with in Australia, especially women's division. Yeah, Kim probably feels that a lot. Yeah, it's hard to get, you want to have as many different people to compete against and good people to compete against as possible. Yeah, that was always, my wife's struggle to as well in the competitions, that there's never a lot of girls for her or different girls for her to fight. So you always end up fighting the same girls, and it's always not as many matches as well. And, the amount of competitions the girls go to is limited. So I had that opportunity in Brazil. There's so many good black belts, so many people. And I was winning, I was losing, I was learning, I was getting better and better and better, And that year I fought so many, world champions and so many, people that was so experienced, and it was really good for me. Great wins, some losses, but overall it was a really, really good year. And the following year, 2016, is when I came to Australia. So that was it. So my mom's business was established. She didn't need my help anymore at her business, which I stayed there for 2.5 years to get things working. All the employees were stealing from her, so I had to go in and learn what they did, fire one by one, and hire.
You just use jiu-jitsu to solve that problem, brother.
not a story. It's crazy, but that's all good. It worked out well. And during that period that I was working with my mom for those 2.5 years is the period that I got my black belt, and I was able to actually train a lot more working for her. I would do what I had to do, but I also could leave at lunchtime and go and do the athletes training, the competition training. And then I could leave a little bit early and go and do another training in the afternoon. So I could train easily twice a day again. So that's when I was like, okay, for the first 6 months to a year, it was a lot of focusing in the business. Then the business, I was like, okay, mom, and my sister as well, Thais, like now business is a little bit better. I'm going to start going and training.
That's
So
awesome.
that's when I, let's go and compete, grind, get better.
All right. So we're up.
Yeah, tell us what brought you to Australia. And so you're saying 2016, was that around the time that you came to Australia?
No, so I came 2007 for 5 months, and that's like in 2016. What happened is just a few changes in my personal life, and my mom's business was going better, and I was conflicting a lot with my sister and my mom, and we're really close together, but we all very hard-headed people, and we would argue a lot and fight a lot. So like me, my mom, and my sister working together, it was, me and my sister's always like that, and mom didn't like seeing it, and that was like carrying on for a long time already. And mom had a good business. It was a hospital equipment business, and it was going on fine, but it's work, and my sister didn't like working with it very much, and of course I didn't mind it. I liked working with it because it would allow me to train more. So sometimes it wasn't the thing that of course I was most passionate about, but I was still being able to do the thing that I was most passionate about, and I always understood that as a good thing and not a bad thing, because I could organize my competition trips, I could organize my training, and that sort of thing. So I really wouldn't mind it. I was okay, but there was so much conflict, and I was like, hey, I want to really get back to my field. Maybe now that the business is going okay, and then my sister could just do whatever she wanted with the business eventually, and not have that conflict with me, and just keep going. So I was like, okay, I want to work with possibly jiu-jitsu and physical activity. As I said, jiu-jitsu was never exclusively my only mission in life. If I get people moving, it's awesome for me. Of course, I'm the biggest believer in jiu-jitsu, and I think jiu-jitsu is for everybody, and there's a lot of different ways to train jiu-jitsu, and that's very important. That's the biggest mistake I think that most people or coaches all over the world can do with jiu-jitsu when they try and just training one exactly hard way always, where a lot of different people don't come into jiu-jitsu. I can talk a little bit about this later, but so where was I? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go overseas. So I could go to Canada. I thought about United States, and of course Australia, where I already lived, which was the one I was inclining more towards. So I was like, well, I'm going to do maybe a course to get to Australia. I knew that I wanted to go wherever I was going. I was not coming back to Brazil. I was very decided
Wow.
that. So I sort of told my parents, hey, I'm going and I'm not coming back. This is happening. This is my life goals. This is my professional goals. I'm going to say bye to you guys now. Don't think I'm coming back. And we're very tied together. It's quite hard. But my mom, although my mom is very, we're very attached, we're very good together. Mom was always like, hey, she sent us to exchange programs for 6 months, so overseas, and she sent my sister for a year overseas. So even though we're really tight together, mom always looked after our best interests. She understood, gotta let my kids fly one day and things like that. So she always supported that a lot. So it was hard for her, but it's still hard. It's still very hard, especially now with her, grandson being a month old, and with COVID and all, she hasn't been here yet. She cries every day. But it's what it is. It'll get better.
Yeah.
I came to Australia in 2016, and I started. I joined a club where one of my friends from Barbosa used to train at. Initially, that's where I met Tegan, actually. Yeah.
That's one question I don't have to ask now. So there we go.
Yes. So, I met Tegan within a couple months training there, and slowly, built, I think it was about 2 or 3 months in Australia, and then we were like boyfriend and girlfriend. And in December, yeah, and then around December that in 2016, of course, when I came to Australia, I was like, okay, I'm going to compete as much as I can. I'm going to first find out how I can stay permanently in the country. So what are the ways that I can, I came to do a fitness 3 certificate. So that's how I came here. So I got a visa to do a fitness 3 certificate. And I already had some relation, of course, with my degree in Brazil, yeah, physical education degree. And although it was a very basic thing, I wasn't really looking. I just really wanted the visa so I could come and then sort out a permanent way. I wasn't really worried about how much I was going to learn, as I had a very good working experience and had already studied quite well before. I just really wanted to figure it out how I was going to be able to stay in the country, which I know is the hardest. It's one of the hardest parts for immigrants coming, right? And I had so many friends who, lived in Australia for 10 years and then got kicked out, or, could not get the PR. And I was like, no, I know if I want to stay, I'm going to focus 100% my PR and trying to stay and trying to train as much and trying to compete as much. So in 2016, I wanted to see what Australia was like in jiu-jitsu, right? Because even though, like, of course, Australia has changed, jiu-jitsu Australian has changed completely from 2016 to now, right? And we're talking about what, five years time, right?
Yeah.
5 years time.
From 2006 to 2016, I bet it changed a lot as well.
Oh, yeah, it is crazy. When did you guys start training?
I started 2009. I started, so yeah, 12 years ago. So yeah,
In Melbourne, Kim?
Yeah, just in Melbourne. I think Anton started on the Gold Coast though, so he might know some of the places where you were initially.
MMA, that's where I started.
Oh, okay. And which year?
I think it was about 2012, somewhere thereabouts. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, big changes there, guys. So
Yeah.
I came and I was training and competing as much as I could. I was teaching in a few classes a week in that place I was training at. And Tegan was training at, and I did the Queensland States, I did the ACT, I did the New South Wales State Championship. Obviously, if you ask me now, ACT, there's not a lot of people competing there. At the time was just Reed Reels, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it very well, but Reed Reels, nice
Really,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
He was my old teammate. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, super nice guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
So he had to fight twice with me, and yeah, so it was good, but just like small, right? But I just wanted to go and see what it was like. And then the year it was like what Australian Championship, and then nationals there, and then Pan Packs. So it was really good. And since then, of course, I did the nationals 2016, 17, and I don't remember if I did 18 and I didn't do 19. I think 19 was the first year I didn't do it. Yeah, that was a year that I was like, no, I'm over nationals. I'm just gonna do Pan Packs. But yeah, and then I did, yeah, I was trying to compete as much as I could here in Australia, and yeah, it was a great experience. And then in the end of 2016, that's when my relationship with Tegan, of course, got much better. We were, I was basically, yeah. Then I moved in with her in December, with her and Mateus, our son, in 2016, and then in February, 1st of February, I left. We left the gym that we were training at in the end of 2016, and we were sort of didn't have anywhere much to train between the end of 2016 and 2017. I had a few opportunities of like places to teach and things like that. But really, when I looked at it at that time in 2000, that's why I know it changed so much. I was like, well, there's not really well-established gyms where the training was really good, and I wouldn't have to do a lot of work as a coach or as a business manager to make the things go the high level the way that I can make them do. So, and don't get me wrong, that's not me being cocky. That's just me understanding what, people needed to do differently for training wise and for, to get the thing for a different level here in Queensland. So then we were like, well, we're gonna have to do all the work. Why don't we, and that was a lot of Tegan supporting me. Why don't we start our own thing? And then we started One Purpose in February 2017. Yeah. And started very slowly. It was me, her, and our son Mateus basically training for the first month. And then slowly people started joining, and we started making a great community and a lot of support. It was very small gym for the first 6 months. And it took really a long, it's a long journey, guys, to build to where we are now. And a lot of, I think that, they're just very, very proud of our community and the culture that we have at One Purpose, and how everybody's always been so supportive. And it is really, and it's not just because it's my gym, but we do have a very beautiful, welcoming, and looking after each other and sharing knowledge culture that I have never seen in my life anywhere else. As well as now, we also have a lot of people training really hard, which meets the two perfect things that I've always wanted in a culture for a gym, which is really hard, right? A lot of the times you're going to have gyms where people are super nice, but they take it very easy and very, very easy going, and they don't focus as much on the technical aspect, or they don't want to train as hard. They're just very cool dudes that you can get together, people that get together and train and have good time, and then getting that hardcore sessions and hard training sessions with a lot of technical focus and that nice culture, In Brazil, we would train really hard with Barbosa, and all of that, but very often, not everybody would share a lot. A lot of people were very selfish. We were all very selfish most of the time. We were all very just looking after our training, like ourselves. I've learned a lot from my training partners and watching other people training, things like that. But it wasn't always, hey, people coming forth to, give you a hand, or it's just a different environment. It's hard to explain. It's a cultural thing, right? As well. So I think that's the things that I've always wanted to make different at One Purpose. And I know that the best thing is it's not only us now. I see a lot of other gyms going the same way. I see that we are not the only ones now doing that. Not the only ones that try and make jiu-jitsu for everybody. Try and welcome because the beginner now, the guy who has absolutely no idea of what they're doing, or doesn't look like the guy will ever be able to do jiu-jitsu properly in a few months' time. As long as he sticks to it and he's consistent, it's almost like magic, right? It's almost like you believe in miracles. You go like, that person is actually doing really well. How is that possible? Because he was consistent. He started slowly, which, the club or the structure, the teaching methodology allow the person to start slowly. You don't want to push that person too hard, otherwise they will quit.
You don't cover their mouth on when they get the bridge and roll.
Building confidence. When I was purple belt, I was 19 years old. I got my purple belt. I cried on the mats. I had 5. It was my grading, my purple belt grading. I had 5 of my best team friends and coaches grabbing each arm, grabbing each leg, and another person going at my back and going to choke me, put me down to sleep. I've never slept in my life in jiu-jitsu. I saw from a young age so many people being put to sleep really bad that I've always had very traumatic experience with it. I never wanted to be put to sleep. So I've always stepped out before. I've never ever been put to sleep.
Never been slept. Wow, 22 I've got you there, brother. I've been slept more times than you can count, right?
That's the thing, right? When I was young, I would see people going to sleep really bad and all of that sort of stuff. So many times, and it would shock me, right? As a child, it would shock me so bad. Yeah. Like, man, I don't ever want that to happen to the guy dying. You don't understand that very well. So probably if I was an adult seeing those things, it would be different. But so I always had that thing. And then I was my purple belt grading. I started crying, man. I was a badass dude, tough guy, crying on the mats and going, it was the first time in my life I was like, is that for me? I was training jiu-jitsu by then for 10 years. And I was like, is that for me?
I feel that too. I actually feel that because I'm so old now. I'm like, is this for me? So that's going to come around again for you in about 20 years time, bro.
I think it's all about who you're training with, how you're training with, and the environment that you have, really. I think you can make it. And that comes a lot from the coach trying to reinforce these things as well. It's a hard job. It's very hard task. You can't just let people train anyhow they want always, because otherwise they're going to end up always going hard or not. They need guidance, students need, that's why they're students, they need guidance, And a lot of times people
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I cut you off. I'm really curious though. I don't know if you're at the end of the story yet of your journey, but like Nate Diaz, that's like he's in the media right now. We're talking about the same Nate Diaz, the MMA fighter, the UFC fighter, that guy, Nate Diaz, right?
What, that I fought, you mean?
That you trained with, who mentored you. You talked about Nate Diaz.
Oh, no. I had Thiago Alves, I had Barbosa, I had, no.
I thought you mentioned that Nate Diaz was a big part of your journey and mentorship. Did I imagine that?
No, it was, look, I had first Paolo Bento. He was my first one after Otávio de Almeida is who I started with in 1999.
Yeah.
And then I had Paolo Bento from 2000 to 2004.
Yeah.
And then I had a bad experience for a year. I'm not going to mention who he was, but I had a bad experience for a year. And then I went to Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is a Brazilian friend and a coach. He was always a competitor as well, but at a state level. He hasn't done a lot of like international competitions or any of these. He was Nate Diaz is his name. Sorry, I probably should have.
My bad. I was like, whoa.
Oh, you've got some pretty big names in there anyway. I don't think many people can claim to have beaten Buchecha at whatever age it was, independent of how small he was at the time. Like, absolutely. And Leandro Lowe and
lots of mentors. What a journey, man. And have we got to the end of your journey? Does that bring you up to date?
Oh yeah, just trying to get better constantly. It's always I did the World Pro UAE JJF in 2017. As soon as we started One Purpose, it was three months after we started One Purpose. Basically, I was training a couple times a week at my friend's gym, Southside BJJ with Vicente Cavalcante here in the Gold Coast. So he was welcoming me to train a few times a week until our gym was a little bit more established. I had more training, but man, basically my camp was training with white belts and Tegan, and then
amazing.
One of our coaches, Jamie, came along as well and was, just a student, but was starting to train maybe once or twice a week with us as well. So it was basically like me trying to do miracles to prepare. Then I go in and I fight Calazan's first round. And it was a good match. I did a little mistake. I was feeling really well. But I did a little mistake that he took me down in the beginning of the match and I couldn't sweep him back. I tried really hard, but it was a good match. It was a good experience there. But I had Calazan's first match, and Calazan's won the year, so he won the Brazilian truckers. That was the first year that the UAE JJF split. They didn't have main event straight away, so we did the Brazilian like it was like a bracket between the Brazilians first in one day, and then the next day the main event starts. So I think Calazan's had like 3 or 4 matches to get to the main event, and then he had to win the main event to go all the way to the final. So he did a great job that year. Then I fought Pan Pags. Didn't fight a Worlds that year. It was just the World Pro. But we did Pan AM, sorry. Tegan and I went to Pan AMs that year, 2017. And it was all training with white belts, man. It was doing weights. It was trying to focus on the technical aspect again and just trying to do my best, getting the big guys and getting everybody coming one after the other to smash it. Just doing to do my best, right? But I did well. I fought Orlando Monteiro, who I think was a world champion in the brown belt the year before. I beat him in the first round in Pan Am, so he wasn't bad. And then in my second round, I got Patrick Gaudier, and I lost by 1 or 2 advantages in the second round. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was a solid match as well with him. It was good, man. I was doing miracle training with the people I was, and still fighting well. So I was happy with it, really. Of course, I wanted to win all of that, but I always try and think more about getting better and just overcoming things. Then the result will come, right? And of course, when the time comes, I will do my very best to beat them. Don't take me wrong. I'm not gonna be like, oh, whatever. No, I'm gonna try and go as hard as I can. But I'm happy with just doing really well. Yeah.
What's next for you, Bob? Like on the international stage now, you're a father. You're a new father. Are you looking to continue competing, or maybe scale it back a bit? Have you?
Look, I want to. I thought when I was 30, I would. I'm gonna turn 30, and maybe I might have to start doing TRT and things like that. And I've never taken steroids in my life. I'm proud of saying that. I've always been 100% natural. Very different than the culture that I grew up with, but I've always sort of didn't want to feel like a fraud sort of thing. I always had that proud as well of sort of and I was like, oh, maybe when I get that I'm going to get slower and all of that, but I feel really good. I have a great for the first time in my life since 2 years ago, I started getting help with nutrition, and although I am a personal trainer, I've always done my own training. I've got a coach behind me now. I've got Kenneth Wally is one of my he teaches some of the classes at our club at One Purpose, and he's also helps me with my diet and helps me with my training. And I've since I started working with him and just being much more smarter than I would always overtrain a lot my whole life. In Brazil you overtrain a lot. It's like train hard every single day, training 5 days a week. Every single week of my whole life, when I finish that competition training 5 days a week, I would be somewhat injured by Friday. Like there was not 1 week in my whole life I would do that competition training 5 days a week and I would not be injured. Just training hard, very hard, not hard, very hard every day is not good for you. People, it's just the culture. You just gotta push through it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna get tough. It's gonna get stronger. And I don't think so, honestly. And I think as I got older, I just got smarter and just learning all of these different things.
So what is the magic formula for that, brother? Like what is the right mix of porrada and not every day? Like what's the balance? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think that's the magic, isn't it? It's for everybody to find a balance between doing a little bit of conditioning and training and just how you feel, assessing something I've learned. And it was really hard for me to learn that and to understand, because the methodology we learned at uni and that we would preach a lot, it was like, okay, train, rest, recover, and then train again and rest, recover. While actually our lives are very much like this. Every single day is different. Some days you've got a lot of energy levels. Some days you feel fatigued. Some days you're mentally fatigued, especially, I'm not a professional athlete. I am, we know professional athletes, you got to, you only train for a bit of your life. I got to teach. I have a business. I coach, and it's all about the balance. Most people in jiu-jitsu are not really professional athletes, are they? They still got to teach, they still got to do seminars, they still got to be always traveling and things like that. People that only train and compete is very, very rare. It's possible, it's just rare. And there's a lot of people that work with jiu-jitsu and that complements who they are and what they do, but not really professional athletes. So
true.
So I think it's all about the balance. It's just seeing how your energy levels are and doing your best. The days I'm very tired, I still train. I just try and be more technical thing. I will always have those things I need to work every week. That's how I keep developing, even though I don't have a coach around. I watch a lot of jiu-jitsu. I watch a lot of the fights, a lot of the competitions. I love watching jiu-jitsu. I have, besides, my wife and I think that's why we do so well together as well. We have such a big passion for, Tegan and I have such a big passion for jiu-jitsu. We love sitting down and watching hours of events and things like that.
That's so much better than binge watching Netflix, man. It's like you have a purpose. You have one purpose. I get it.
We do that too. But yeah, we love watching the competitions and learning and going back and then talking about the techniques and then bringing it down to the gym and trying things. I learned a lot like that. I learned a lot from watching high-level athletes competing and what they're doing. And I go like, I don't like the best to always watch instructionals. I struggle with it. I think just attention, it's hard for me. So I just like watching those guys actually fighting and seeing what they're doing and what's working. And then I just break it down myself and I just keep doing trials and errors until I sort of find the tune. Or if I don't find the tune, then of course, watching an instruction and the details is probably very beneficial as well. Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for giving up your time. Do you have any final parting words?
Oh, no, guys, thank you. I spoke all the time. Sorry, I didn't give you guys any chance to
No,
speak.
great.
Kim,
I
have one more question for Bob. Can I ask him one more question, please? Because like you guys are another power couple, another BJJ black belt power couple, and we love having those people on the show because love is the answer, and BJJ is the answer for a lot of people, right? In a lot of ways. So, like, what is the thing that the relationship with Tegan has really added to your, to what dimension has that added to your game or to your BJJ life, or like how has it changed things?
Man, Tegan is not only an inspiration for me as an athlete, and she is a much more devoted person to everything she does in life than I am. She's so much more focused and she works harder than me. So having her next to me, it's always, since we got together, it's always pushed me to be so much better, really, in all aspects of my life. Because when you've got a good person next to you, and of course, I'm sure I also lifted her up when she was down many times, but it's a great inspiration to have someone good next to you, right? If you have someone that's not very driven, and just her drive, like her, the amount that she likes, how hard she tries, she certainly does a lot harder than I do, probably have a lot of talent, and maybe I've been lazy so often, but seeing her and how much effort she's always put to even get to training, things like that, has always pushed me a lot, So yeah, it certainly complements a lot everything, man. It's something very important.
She is certainly one of my fiercest competitors. So, but give her all my very best. Congratulations again on your new baby, and I look forward to seeing her on the mats at some time in the future, and yourself. Hopefully, when these lockdowns end and we can all get back together.
That'll be awesome,
one
guys.
community.
I can't wait.
Yeah. We'll probably have this out in maybe about 2 weeks or so, I think. So if you could share it, we've got it on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, all the places, Spotify, where all the podcasts are. So we'd really appreciate if you could share it with your people. That would really help our listening audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry about talking too much.
It's great, man. Normally, like we get to do a lot more talking, but actually, it's so great to get someone who just opens up, doesn't need to be led, and gives, like, what you've offered the listeners is what they've been asking for quite a while, which is longer versions of our show. And there's so much content in it. There's so much amazing stuff that you shared. Like, I really.
Oh, you've got so many stories. You could come on again and do another one with just as much story. So yeah, please.
And Tegan as well. Like, bring on.
Yeah, maybe when the bubba's a little bit bigger, we can have you guys on together if the timing ever works out or whatever.
At the moment, that would be hard, guys. It's either we're lucky today we've got our in-laws here, but usually it's been
I understand. We're both parents too. We know what it's like. So thank you once again for giving up your time. Really appreciate, and thank you for your awesome stories. So look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.